So, quick recap. Our Stepping Stones model for growth starts with the search for hidden leopards. We keep our focus outwards on non-members to see what God's doing in their lives. Then we said faith's a journey. A key part of the journey is getting to know and trust a Christian. And that's where our existing contacts are so important. We already have a starting point.
But here's the thing. Lots of churches have lots of contacts and do lots of great activities. But it doesn't mean they're bursting with lots of new people finding faith. And that brings us to the heart of Stepping Stones. The reason we called it Stepping Stones in the first place. To turn contacts into disciples, we need to be intentional. For people to make that journey, we need to put in place stepping stones that they can walk on.
There's a well-known saying, actions speak louder than words, and there's a lot of truth in that. Remember what we said about the professions people trust. People trust nurses who care and bring healing. They mistrust politicians who seem to be all about words and empty promises. So church leaders often say, actions speak louder than words, so I live out my faith in practical ways. If people want to find out about the faith that motivates me, they could just ask.
Impeccable logic. But the sad truth is, if we wait for people to ask us about our faith, in most cases we'll be waiting an awfully long time. Of course it does happen occasionally, and when it does it's great. We have an open door to share our faith. But the reality is, most of the time, most people don't ask. It's not that they're not interested. I guess it feels like a scary conversation where they'll be out of their depth, or they worry that they're taking up our valuable time.
And that's why we need to take the initiative. We need to be intentional about creating pathways for people to travel on. In other words, putting in place stepping stones to help people journey towards faith. In so many of our churches, it's the absence of those stepping stones that's the missing link.
Here's an example. You're talking to a young mum at a toddler group that meets in your church hall. You're having a cup of tea and she's telling you about her life. Turns out her mum died a year ago and she's missing her terribly. She's now had her first child and finding it more stressful than she expected. At the same time, she's got questions about the values she's going to bring up a baby with, particularly given the uncertainty of the world today. Lots of hidden leopards there. Ways God's already at work, stirring up questions and longings in her heart. She's open to faith.
So the question is, what stepping stones are there in the life of your church that will help her take her next step? What will you recommend to her? Do you have an ENQUIRERS group? Or a discussion group in the pub? Or an alpha course? Or a women's wellbeing group? Just one of those could make all the difference. And if you've got a few things to offer, well, that's even better. You can then choose which one might be the best fit.
We talked in the last session about 7 types of contact. We're now going to explore 7 stepping stones. In other words, 7 types of stepping stone that help somebody move from being a contact to finding faith. Eve's going to talk us through what these stepping stones are, and we're going to look at examples from around the diocese. You can follow where we're heading in your handbook.
Stepping stone number 1 is make the link. In other words, doing something that you're already doing, but joining the dots for people. Make an explicit link to faith issues. That can work particularly well with toddler groups and in our schools.
Well, the first thing I would say is make sure that as a church you own your toddler group, that you care about it, that everyone knows that it's on. Every Sunday be praying for the people that come to your group. Before you start your toddler group each week, get your leaders together and pray for them. And also offer to pray for people. You'd be surprised by how many people in your group would welcome some prayer in their life. The next thing I'd say is make sure that your welcome is really positive and really caring, that you show authentic love for people, that you make them feel glad that they came, and invite them to other things at your church. Make sure that they have opportunities to join in with other activities in your church community. Don't be afraid to share messages from the Bible, do it in a creative and fun way. People often expect to hear about God when they come into a church and are disappointed if they don't. So be confident in the message that you share.
One other thing it's important to say here. When we talk about stepping stones, we're not only talking about stepping stones into a church service on a Sunday. It may be that your toddler group develops a weekday toddler church or a messy church. And for those members, that is church. And that's okay.
Stepping stone number 2 is hospitality. We've got all these contacts. Hospitality is an intentional next step in saying, let's get to know each other. It's being proactive and being friendly.
Hospitality is whole church events and it's individual. What matters is creating a culture of welcome and personal interest in people. Remember, we talked about people's fear that the church will seem scary or judgmental. Hospitality is a chance to prove we're not. A cup of coffee can make a big difference.
I think hospitality is a key stepping stone for the local church. In my previous parish, we invited our hall users to come together with us, the church, and provide hospitality for our community and wider parish. It was a place where there was social isolation, poor mental health, and so we at Candlemas had the Festival of Lights, where we had a great evening of entertainment and activity interspersed with scripture, interspersed with poetry. At the end of the evening, we came together in the church garden with sparklers and sang together. It was so uplifting. But it's also about relationship, the one-to-ones, sharing cups of tea or coffee, whether in homes or coffee shops, because it's all about relationship.
But it doesn't have to be large-scale events for groups. It can just be you having a drink with somebody or inviting people for a meal. Something that says, we care. And remember, as we said before, we're talking about all church members, not just the vicar.
Stepping stone number 3 is a chat group. Nobody likes a hard sell, but people love an informal chance to meet and talk about stuff.
We have a group what's called Pints of You that meets here in the Wagon and Horses on the first Thursday of every month. And we find it's a really good opportunity for people to want to open up and to come and approach members of the church in a way they would not do in a formal church setting. And the exciting development is that we're about to develop and launch a pub alpha group and to give some invitations out to people, and we're really quite excited that some of those people will come along to that who wouldn't otherwise come to an invitation in a formal church setting. And some of the conversations we've had with people recently and all kinds of social and personal things has resulted in them wanting to come and be involved with something like that. So we're raring to go.
If you're not sure what you are going to discuss, there are great discussion starters out there. There are packs of cards called Table Talk, which are aimed at different groups: students, children, group of friends, and so on. Other resources out there aren't overtly Christian, but they are still good ways to start up a conversation.
I wrote a short course myself that's been used in lots of local churches. It's called Why on Earth? It opens up hard questions such as faith and science, and each session includes a short animated video. They're helpful discussion starters.
And remember, you can set up a group for a limited time, say just 6 sessions. People are far more willing to give something a go if they know they're not signing up for life.
Stepping stone number 4 is an activity group. Some people find chatty groups awkward. Men especially can feel uncomfortable when the main purpose of a group is chatting. My husband would absolutely hate that kind of thing. But here's the thing. It doesn't mean that they don't wrestle with issues. Some people just prefer to talk as they do a shared activity with other people. So there are all sorts of options for activity groups. A walking group, a bike repair group, a book club, an environmental project. Or here's an idea, a men's social.
I help coordinate men's stuff at St James and Emmanuel Didsbury, where we hold regular men's breakfasts, curry nights, we have pub tours, we have walking tours, we have Bible groups. All that's been brought about because it was noticed that there was quite a lack of men in the congregations about 8 years ago, and what we're trying to do is just make the greater community, if you like, aware of God and bring people together in God's name. This has been, I think, successful in that we regularly have attendances of about 45. People from other parishes attend, agnostics, atheists. We've had bishops speak for us. We've had the women trying to get involved, which we've had to say no to, so they've formed their own groups. And really, it's a good thing to do. It's bringing people together in the name of God and making them aware of God.
Stepping stone number 5 is a life help group. It's about helping people with their real-world problems. In the communities where we minister, so many people are wrestling with big issues. Some people feel close to the edge. If we can help them navigate life's challenges, we'll earn a right to be heard when we talk about faith.
Some groups are easy to set up and you don't need experts. So if you want to run a marriage course or parenting course, there are some great resources out there already. People from your church who are married or parents can use the resource and lead the discussion. It's a good way to offer Christian insight into big life issues.
Or a women's wellbeing group might look at a different topic each week. Say diet, health, self-esteem, body image, or relationships.
Of course, some areas of help are more specialist. It may be that there's a need in your area for money advice because people are in debt, or lots of people have addictions, or suffer from depression. In that case, you'll probably need some outside help by teaming up with a group who specialise in that area.
So I run the Debt Centre, and our unique selling point is that we go into people's houses. So we pray first that God will go with us, and then we listen. We just listen and listen and listen, and the client begins to trust us. We take the debt paperwork away, so that relieves the pressure from them. And when it comes to the point where we offer prayer at the end, they say yes, and we get that opportunity, and often they get emotional, they begin to trust us. And that opens up other doors. So we leave Christian literature with them. We go back and ask them what they thought about that. We invite them to church events. They become part of the church family. That support worker invites them out for a coffee. It builds relationships, and then we hold these bigger client events where all the clients come and the gospel is proclaimed, and we see people coming to Jesus. It's great.
And there are other specialist ministries, such as Celebrate Recovery, a Christian 12-step program for people wrestling with addictions.
But if these link-ups sound daunting, don't worry. A simple course to help people with marriage or parenting will be a great stepping stone.
Stepping stone number 6 is an ENQUIRERS group or basics course. In a way, this is the most obvious stepping stone of all. Here in Manchester, 41% of our churches run an ENQUIRERS or basics course, so that means most of our churches still don't. The Alpha course was set up to be a non-threatening space where people can relax and explore faith. It helps that Alpha has a high profile nationally, and the materials are professionally produced.
Well, I think a really good stepping stone for all churches is an ENQUIRERS course. It's good to run those once or twice a year and just make it a regular part of your routine. There are various ones that you can use. So lots of churches use Alpha. That doesn't work particularly well for us. It works well for some people, but not for us. We've used Pilgrim, and that's good. But recently we used the new version of Start, and it was fantastic. Really nice videos, good prompts to discussion. We had a group of people, some of whom were regulars at church, some of people whom were new people, contacts that we'd made in various ways, and we got people together and we had a really, really good group exploring what Christian faith is.
I grew up in Ker, fell out of Ker, started taking heavy drugs about 18 and been an heroin addict most of my life till I started going to church. Just after going to church I got into treatment, did an Alpha course. Yes, an Alpha course was about 2 years ago, and yeah, Jesus turned my life upside down, to be honest.
Or why not design your own short course? The main thing is to keep it accessible and leave space for people to ask their own questions.
Stepping stone number 7 is an offer to pray for people. In a way, this is the easiest stepping stone of the lot, but it's one that makes the link between life and faith brilliantly. And it's an offer of something, a way of saying we care.
I think some of us get a bit embarrassed and are worried about praying for people, whereas in fact if we're authentic in our faith, what happens in our liturgy on the Sunday in church and our serving our communities in our parish on midweek, they're one and the same thing. So actually praying for people appropriately, sensitively, is natural to us. It should be. And that's why so many ministries actually find this a way of bringing spirituality in. So therefore some churches, toddler groups having prayer requests, put them on the prayer tree. Sometimes churches will pray for a street in the parish and let people know on the Sunday that they're being prayed for. Huge opportunities, and therefore they actually link together. And there's an example of the Gathered Saturday Church in Halifax, which started when people in very rough situations asked the local curate to pray for them, not on Sunday, but there and then. And out of that, a whole church was actually planted, praying for people in growth. They're not separate, they link together.
So, 7 types of stepping stone. In your handbook, you'll see a tick box for each one. Tick the box if your church already has that stepping stone in place, and write on the line what it is you do. As with the contact, you won't have time to finish that now, but finish filling it in as homework.
And here's the big challenge. If you don't have many stepping stones in place at the moment, what can you put in place over the next few months? It could make all the difference. You can't do everything, but what can you do? It's these stepping stones that are the missing link in so many churches. If people are going to journey to faith, it will be because we will be helping them take the next step.